What was the most awkward thing you witnessed in a classroom? Welcome back, folks. You know how kids can be really strange and stupid, right? Well, get them all together in one place and have a classroom of hyper kids doing all sorts of crazy things. Today, we'll look at some of those crazy stories shared by Redditors that have made an entire classroom sit in an awkward silence. And you'll be surprised to know it's not just because of the kids. Middle school chemistry class. The ceiling vent fan had not been used since at least the previous spring term. Pigeons had nested in it unbeknownst to the teacher. Fan used during a demonstration. Pandemonium reigned that day. Blood and feathers reigned that day. That's a sight they definitely don't want to remember. This one time in 3rd grade, the boy next to me went under his desk and took off his clothes because he wanted to be invisible. So, who's gonna tell him? The next two stories are more heartbreaking than awkward. Girl fell while sitting at her desk in math class. Person beside me starts laughing. The look on his face when it became obvious she was having a seizure was that of pure terror and regret. My professor for a computer science class had his phone go off during a lecture one day. He's a pretty chill old man, so everyone starts giggling and some people are yelling at him to answer it. He looks at his phone and says, "Oh no, I'm not answering. My brother died today and I have to make funeral arrangements. I'll call back later." And then he moved on with his lecture. I've never seen a room so awkwardly quiet and sad. We had a mentally challenged kid who stood up in the middle of lunch and threw his tray of food against the wall and ran out of the room screaming. The assistant principal walked past my table saying, "I guess he didn't like the soup." When I was in the 6th grade, one of my classmates took off his prosthetic leg and tried to hit the teacher with it. If you think that was crazy, wait till you hear the next one. My high school economics class, a girl was called to the office with her things rather suddenly. About 2 minutes later, she comes bursting into the room and yells, "My dad just died." The teacher immediately went to try and console her as she was justifiably distressed. Everyone in the room was in complete shock. She then yelled at the teacher to get off of her and threw her arm back and started hysterically darting around the room. Eventually, her family member came to the room and got her. We could hear her sobbing down the hall. It was the craziest, most heart-wrenching thing I had seen in a class. The second most awkward thing involved the same girl about a year earlier. She nearly tried to fight our English lit teacher while he was dressed in a formal kilt and jacket. I don't remember why. She had to be escorted out by security. My 30-year-old teacher admitted she was a virgin to a class of high school sophomores. That didn't end well. Kid in my sophomore math class would massage rub his girlfriend's bare feet for most of class, every day. During the lunch break, this guy who was eating a sandwich was on the verge of sneezing, so he finally sneezes and I see the piece of sandwich flying, I'm not kidding, into the mouth of my classmate who was busy laughing. His confused expression was priceless. Honestly, that's pretty hilarious. I was in the 9th grade and there was a girl in my classroom who broke both of her arms. So she had them in the cast that held her arms above her waist. Now this girl wasn't the most popular and she was best friends with another girl who was equally awkward as she was. I would never forget when the best friend raised her hand to get the attention of the teacher. The teacher called on the best friend and she asked her if she and her broken-armed friend could use the restroom together. And the teacher asks, "Why would you need to go together?" She replies just like this, "I have to unzip and take off her pants." Looking back, I understand now that she just wanted to help her friend use the restroom. But imagine being in 9th grade and you hear this. Everyone in the classroom was silent. Then one kid started laughing. Then everyone started laughing. And that is how the lesbian rumors started about the two. High school can be a... Buckle up, the next story will gross you out. 11th grade, shitty alternative school. One of the scummy kids was a notorious cigarette bum. They gave us smoke breaks at school to cut down on kids leaving campus. One day, he asked to bum a cigarette from someone, and they said, "Eat a dead fly off the windowsill and I'll give you a cigarette." He thought about it for a minute, and someone else offered to give him a cigarette for every fly he ate. This turned into eating all 24 of the available dead flies for 24 cigarettes. He ate them one at a time and collected a cigarette for each. The next day, he tried again, but there weren't any flies to eat. The following day, he brought his own flies in. That kid was up. Next story is the type of craziness cartoon characters are made of. Read on. In 7th grade, there was this girl that was known for doing all kinds of weird shit. She cut a chunk of her hair off and left it on my friend's desk as a birthday present, meowed at people, and cried when anyone stepped on a bug. The most awkward incident happened when she dropped her pencil during a test. I guess she was too shy to ask the person next to her for it, so she tried to stretch for it and ended up flipping her desk over. She then continued to do her test in her desk sideways for another 10 minutes until the teacher told another student to flip her over. Honestly, some teachers can be ruthless and crazier than kids. Read the next story to know why. When I was in elementary school, there was a girl in my class who wanted to go to the bathroom. The teacher repeatedly refused her request, and finally she shit herself. The teacher ushered her to the bathroom and put the turd in a plastic bag and held it in front of the class while the girl stood there next to her, humiliated. Pretty sure she called the girl's parents to pick her up after that. The girl just sat in her desk with her head down until they arrived. It wasn't me, but the stories were everywhere. In public grade school, our superintendent made a surprise visit and decided to sit on a random teacher's class. She sat in the back to watch, and these two boys in front of her were whispering to each other. She leaned in and whispered that they should pay attention. They did, but 2 or 3 minutes later started again. This apparently happened several more iterations before the SI leaned forward and slammed their heads together and shouted, "Pay the attention to your teacher." Fired before the end of the school day. Ouch. Now buckle up, the next story will remind you how gross some kids in school can be. Back in the 6th grade, I had a kid who always caused trouble and tried to be the center of attention all the time. Well, this kid had a weird day of flirting with girls, whether it be to shoot spitballs at them or pour water on them. One day he told all his friends that he literally shit his pants during class in order to show off to the girls. During class he heard giggling and it began to smell like actual shit. Everyone looks at him because he was sitting in the back of class, and he stands up while laughing and says, "Teacher, I need to go to the bathroom. I accidentally shit my pants." With shit running down his legs, he walks out of class, laughing hysterically as if he had just won a Nobel Prize or something. BTW, he was never popular with the girls. In 2nd grade of high school, a student flipped the off and started throwing chairs and his desk at the teacher because he was refused a test reprisal upon failing it the first time. Shit got super scary. He was yelling like crazy and the female teacher was trying to protect herself from the things thrown at her. Another teacher next door barged in, grabbed the enraged student, nailed him on the floor, face down, and tied his feet and arms together with his belt and shoelace. I remember him being taken away and we never saw him again. I think the teachers ate him. Oh gosh, that's one violent memory. Have you guys had any awkward scenarios like these in your school days? Comment and let us know if you did. Also, subscribe to the channel and keep watching. Stories will only get crazier from here.